Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and here we are getting ready to start a new year. And here's a question for you. You want to revitalize your spiritual life, your practical life. You want to get some simple things to kind of focus on to get you going in the right direction. Well, our good buddy, Dr. Kevin Leman, has written a book called The Way of the Wise. And I think this is a simple little book that you may want to pick up, or maybe even over the weekend. Check it out at the bookstores and see if you can find a copy of it and get it or order it and read it. You could probably read it within 20 minutes, 25 minutes or a half hour or so, and it'll give you a good start in the new year. So join me as we talk to our good buddy, Dr. Kevin Leman, about The Way of the Wise. Well, we're talking to a friend today that certainly needs no introduction. You see him all over television. You hear him all over radio. Just a couple weeks ago, he did a two-part series with Dr. Dobson. He fishes in red and white striped shorts and wingtip shoes. I have evidence of that. Other than that, he's the father of 5 and the loving husband of Sandy. Dr. Kevin Leman is with us today. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well, Perry. It's nice to be with you guys.
Yeah. Your new book, I am fascinated by it. In fact, I had to pull it away from Peggy to finish reading it. It's called The Way of the Wise, Simple Truths for Living Well. And I'd have to say, Kevin, of all the books you've written, this one really goes to the heart. What motivated you to do this?
Well, I think this book has been in my heart for a long time, Perry. That the publisher said, wow, you did this from beginning to end in 57 days. And these are their words, not mine. They said, this is the book you're going to be remembered for. More than the birth order book, more than Sex Begins in the Kitchen or sheet music or Making Children Mine Without Losing Yours or Have a New Kid by Friday. And all those books have done extremely well. And when I heard that, I go, you got to be kidding me. And they said, no, this is who Kevin Leman really is. And I asked people to point to themselves as they read the book. And, well, I'll do it for everybody right now. I'm going to point to myself, okay?
Okay.
Now, where am I pointing? I'm pointing to my heart. And in this little book, there's a great little story from my friend Chuck Swindoll that visits a 7th grade Sunday school class, Perry. And he asks the kids this question. He says, okay, kids, what's green and says ribbon? And nobody says anything. And finally he says, come on now, what's green and says ribbon? And then one kid steps up, he says, well, I think it's a frog, but I'll say Jesus. And I love that story because it seems to be that there's a disconnect between so many people in this world who know about the big guy in the sky, but they don't have any relationship with his son, Jesus Christ. They never got to that point. And so this is a book for people of faith, but I think it's a book the heathens are going to like. I sort of take a shot at the sanctimonious Christians in this book, and I think they might ride along and they might have a surprise ending when they finish this book.
Well, why did you write it? Why did you go down this road? Everything else you do is pretty much relational. Why did you take this one on?
Well, I think the best answer is that, you know, I'm 69 years old, and I read in the paper the other day that the average male lasts on this earth to be 74 years of age. My dad died at age 74, and I'm going, well, I never was good in math or my gazindas. You know, 4 goes into 16 and 5 goes into 20. But the addition and subtraction I got down pretty good, and I figured out, you know what? Man, I could be out of here in 5 years. I want to make a difference. And I want to write something that is going to be a permanent legacy for who I am, because so many people struggle in that they don't feel like they measure up. They're not good enough. And this is a book of encouragement to anybody who feels like somehow they're not as good as they should be.
You know, in reading this book, Kevin, the scripture that kept coming to me is where Jesus was talking to his disciples, and he said, I don't call you servants, I call you friends, which takes it to a whole nother level of a relationship. And that's what I sense you're trying to communicate here.
Well, you know, the disciples, I've drawn so much strength from the disciples because I've searched and I can't find 12 dumber people in the entire Bible than the disciples. They were dumb as mud. Because, now where have you heard that on Christian TV before, by the way? Nowhere but right here. But seriously, I mean, these guys were stupid. They were with Jesus. Thomas said, "Here, Lord, here's the loaves, feed these 5,000 people." And, these guys were all there. They saw the miracles. They saw the blind man healed, and they saw the water changed into wine in Cana in Galilee at the wedding feast. And yet, these same people fell short. After they nailed Jesus to the cross, they really feared for their life. And the Bible teaches us that they were huddled together behind closed doors. And I love this scripture, Perry, because all of a sudden, instantly, Jesus didn't knock on the door. Okay, let me be clear about that. He didn't have a pass key. He just all of a sudden appears in their midst. And I'm telling you that the disciples, they were checking their pants, to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
They're thinking, wait a minute. We saw you nailed to the cross and you died. We saw you dead. And so they didn't get it. And so if you're one of those people who struggle every day and you just feel like you're not good enough, you don't measure up, take heart. You're in great company. St. Paul, I never caught his last name, but he taught Kevin Leman a lot of things in life through the words that he penned in our holy word. But he calls himself wretched. Well, if he's wretched, what is Perry and Peggy Atkinson if St. Paul is wretched? And do you know how many schools have been named after him throughout the U.S. and Canada? My goodness.
Yeah. The other thing is that you're hitting so well with here is it's such an encouragement for those who have, if I could use the term, low self-esteem. You even quote some of your own struggles. In fact, it was interesting because with the book that we got from your publisher is a letter from your college, North Park College, that pretty much says you're a failure and you will be unsuccessful.
Most regrettably, Kevin's record does not support admission. Rather, therefore, than grant him a probationary admission, which our studies show would lead to his failure, we must decline his application.
Yeah, basically that's what it says, yeah.
That's embedded in my heart, that paragraph. But I was so stupid. When I got that letter, I called my older brother, Jack, and I said, "Jack, I'm in." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I got in college." He said, "You did? I got a letter right here." He said, "Read it to me." I read him the letter. He said, "You're not in, stupid. They don't want you." That's how dumb I was.
Wow. Wow. So let's go back to the relationship that you're trying to convey here that we have with the Lord. You've taken it to a whole new heart level. It seems that you are trying to say to the reader that there's another relationship here that may be the one that you have experienced.
Yeah, and it has to be a personal relationship. If you came to faith and trust in God, someone trusted God before you, Perry. Mm-hmm. That's the way it is for 99.9% of us. There was someone who came into our life. After I got thrown out of North Park for stealing the Conscience Fund, which is a long story we don't have time to go into, I came to Tucson, Arizona, and I got a job as a janitor. And I met the sweetest, prettiest thing I ever laid eyes on in the men's restroom of that hospital. I was making $195 a month, and my wife-to-be, Sandy, who I call Mrs. Uppington for short, walked in helping some little old guy go piddle. And you've probably heard this story 100 times, but, I was always good at saying stupid things, so I said to her, "Would you like to go to the World's Fair with me?" Well, the World's Fair was in New York City. This is Tucson, Arizona, and I'm making $195 a month.
And you're in the men's room.
Yeah. And she said, "Well, I don't know then." And I said, "Well, how about lunch?" So we went to a McDonald's, split a 20-cent cheeseburger and a 10-cent Coke. And I fell in love with this chick. And at the time, I was a punk. I had sort of greasy hair. I smoked Salem cigarettes. I had a cap front tooth that had worn a hole through it right here. And I mean, I had a spot right in the middle of my tooth. I mean, Perry, I was a looker. I was a looker. And yet, just like most women, just like your Peggy, women have this ability to look inside of us men. Most men get blinded by what's on the outside of the woman, but women have that ability to look inside. And she saw something in me. She didn't beat me over the head. She didn't share the foreign spiritual laws. And she didn't say, Leman, you got to quit smoking those cigarettes or I'm dumping you immediately. And yet she was the key influencer that helped pull the trigger in my life for me to come to terms with Jesus Christ.
How'd that happen?
Well, she invited me to church.
Now what?
And I remember thinking, oh, no, she's one of them. If there's one thing I didn't want to do, Perry, is go to church. And she was a Baptist. She's a Baptist. I knew all about Baptists. I wanted no part of Baptists. Well, I remember sitting in her church thinking, no chick's worth this. And then she wanted me to come back at night. Now, why would you go back at night? You've already been there in the morning. Like you didn't do it right. So anyway, that's Sunday night service, and this gets to the heart of this book, The Way of the Wise. This gets to the heart of it, because this guy was talking about the guy who knew who Jesus Christ was in his head, but he didn't know who he was in his heart. And see, that's what this book is all about. It's understanding that you need to live this life, and these simple little things that King Solomon has given us so wisely in Proverbs are just little nuggets. They're life nuggets that just help you through life no matter where you are.
Let me take a break here, Kevin. When we come back, I want you to kind of walk us through some of these chapters, because every one of them, I can just see you talking about these titles. I think these are one-liners that you've used in some of your seminars, but they're terrific. Like, I'm all yours, all 96%. There's just some great titles, and I want you to kind of highlight some of those. So let me take a quick break. Our special friend is Dr. Kevin Leman with us today, and his new book entitled The Way of the Wise. The picture on the screen is put out by Revell. Make sure that you get a copy of it. Check it out at Evangel or online at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. We'll be right back with Dr. Kevin Leman.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back, and Kevin Leman's our special guest. And Dr. Kevin Leman, you probably have seen him on all the shows. He was just recently 2 days with Dr. Dobson. His new book, I have to tell you, this goes right to your heart. And you talk about a book that's going to really make you think about your relationship with Christ. This is the one, The Way of the Wise. And it's put out by Revell Books and Dr. Kevin Leman. It's also a little bit of a play on words, because the other book that I really have gleaned much from him is The Way of the Shepherd. In fact, I think it's the best HR book out on the market. You ought to put that in the business section of every store, Kevin.
Well, you know, we try to. The interesting thing, Perry, is that we've never done a book tour with that Way of the Shepherd. But anyone who's watching us today, if you're in leadership and you've never read that book, or the birth order book for that matter, you've missed something, because that will give you a leg up on the guy next to you. Trust me. It's a pure leadership book. I just did the Young Presidents Organization. I do a lot of YPO groups, and these are very, very successful businessmen and women from around our country and Canada as well. And I talk with them about two things: the Way of the Shepherd and birth order. And those are two things that just go together if you want to make it in business, you better understand the competitive edge that those books give you.
Yeah, they are terrific. Well, today we're talking about The Way of the Wise. It's your latest book, and as your publisher said, this may be the book you're best known for. And yet, how many books have you written? What do you got?
This is book, only because I counted them recently. This is book 42. 43 comes out in September. And the bad news is I just signed on for 5 more books.
Oh. Okay, so how did you go from flirting with a cute girl in the men's room to a PhD in writing 43 books? What happened in your life that turned you around?
Well, when I walked out of that church that night, Perry, I felt clean for the first time. And I knew something, and I just said, God, I mean, okay, I've heard all those Bible stories. My mother dragged me to church all those years, but I know this is my time. All right, I don't know what this ride's going to be like, but I want you to come into my heart, and I want to do my best to please you. And let me be the first to say there's been many times in my life I haven't pleased God. But God gave me motivation. Now, I had taken 2 courses. Why am I telling you my life story?
That's funny.
Because I love you. But I took a course at the University of Arizona at night. I was working full-time, and I flunked it. I got an F, failure. Well, I repeated it the second semester, and I flunked it again. I became a believer. I went back to school that next semester. I took 16 units of credit and worked full-time, and I got a letter from the dean. And this is really funny because I'm a former dean of students at the University of Arizona. And I walked into the dean's office, and a secretary greeted me, and the first thing I said to the secretary, Perry, was, I didn't do nothing. I was so stupid even then, and this is after I became a believer, that I thought I was in trouble. And she said, what's your name? I said, my name's Kevin Leman. She said, oh, well, you've won university scholarship honors. I said, well, what's that? She said, well, we're going to pay for the rest of your education as long as you hold your grades. So God gave me motivation to answer your question, and I began this metamorphosis, if you will, where all of a sudden I began to see myself as a new creature. Now, I use that term only because it matches up with what the Bible says, new creature.
Right.
But I saw myself as a new person, and it was a surprise to me. I remember looking at my grades and saying my name out loud, Kevin Leman, that's my name on there. Look at those grades. And I got all A's and 1 B the first semester back full-time while working full-time, and never looked back. I was an honor student from then on. I went on and got a master's degree and a doctorate degree and was a dean of students and a professor at the university. So God started a work in me, and did I ever think I'd be doing what I'm doing? Whether it was looking in Oprah Winfrey's eyes or filled, I'm so old I did Donahue. Or all the programs I do. I'll be on Fox and Friends, by the way, March 15 and 16, again, in New York, and we'll be doing the Bill Bennett show again shortly. All those opportunities have come because in that Sunday night service, I said, okay, Lord, I don't know where this ride's taking me, but I'm yours. Let's do it. So,
looking at some of these chapters, and maybe you can highlight them for us, there's some great ones in here. Jesus ain't the big bad wolf. Jesus and God, that's all they talk about is Jesus and God. What do you want us to get here?
Well, Jesus ain't the big bad wolf, folks. He doesn't huff and puff and blow your door down. And you got to play smart in life. I even tell the story of the 3 pigs in this little book. You know, that third little pig, he was the smart sucker. He built his house out of brick. Mm-hmm. He outfoxed the big bad wolf, by the way. But there's Christians who would make you think like somehow God is the big bad guy in the sky is going to grab us by the scruff of the neck and twist our earlobe and say, you will acknowledge me. That's the authoritarian God that doesn't exist, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. But he is a supreme what? Authority. And he gives us a choice. You know, I've got a chapter in here called The Road Less Traveled, has fewer people on it. Mm-hmm. It has fewer people on it because if you want to follow Christ, you've got to be submissive to him, which leads to another chapter. And you're right, I've used this one-liner for years, and that's why this book flowed so smoothly. Lord, I'm yours, all 96%. But my favorite chapter of all is, Lord, you're the potter, I'm the clay, but I do have a few suggestions. And I think this is where most of us really struggle with, that God has made many of us. I take you. I don't want to get your head too big up there in the Rogue Valley, but you are a multi-talented person. I mean, you can fly an airplane. You can act as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, as a radio talk show host, you know, a TV host. It'd be real easy for you to say, as I've done many times in my life, hey, Lord, move over there. Let me drive for a minute. I can drive. Let me get behind the wheel of life. And what happens to us when we do that?
Right in right in the ditch.
Yeah, and what do we say? We say, Lord, are you there? Is that you, Leman? Yeah, Lord, it's me. Could you just call me a little tow truck, get me out of here? It's on its way, fat boy. Be there in a few minutes. So what I'm saying is that, yes, he is able and just to forgive us our sin, but it's only through God's grace that you and I and other people get through life. Because if we're left to ourselves, we're just like the disciples. We end up dumb as mud. We need him every day in our life.
You know, the other thing that came from me going through this book, Kevin, was knowing you, the many years that I've known you personally, and some of the struggles that you've been through and everything else. It appears in the writing of this book, you have, not that you ever drifted from God by any means, but it seems like you've even turned more towards him.
Well, I think that's true because of what I said earlier, that, you know, my prayer every morning is, Lord, I want to finish strong. I mean, I could name names, but I don't want to be embarrassment to people. I could name public people in the Christian church who didn't finish strong. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be one of them. I want at my funeral a lot of crying. In fact, wailing to be perfect. I want people to say, you know, Leman is everything he had. He wasn't the brightest bulb in the tree, but you know what? He helped us with our marriages. He helped us with rearing kids. And he helped us with matters of the heart. And this little puppy, The Way of the Wise, is certainly a book that speaks to the heart. And my vision for this book is that Christian people are very unique, Perry. They'll go in a bookstore, they'll go online, and they'll pick up a book. But it's just like them to buy a couple copies for friends or loved ones, kids, relatives, friends they work with. That's what makes the Christian marketplace unique. And my thought is that's exactly what's going to happen with this book, that people are going to buy it by the handful. And it's a small, very cheap book. I mean, you can get it on Amazon for $10 and change.
Yeah. You say God isn't interested in the perfect you. He's interested in the good you.
Yeah, you got to shed the perfection thing. I've got a chapter in here that sort of takes a shot at those people that have little license plates that say, God is number one in my life. Mm-hmm. Or my other one that I dislike so much is, God is my co-pilot. Let me get this straight, fella. God, the eternal God, the creator of the universe, is your co-pilot. Really? You want to rethink that?
Yeah.
Or God number one in your life? Let me get this straight. You give God a number. I don't think so. Mm. I think if you're lucky, you get a number from God. So I think sometimes we've just sort of plasticized, if you will, the Lord Jesus Christ. We love the Christian fish, Perry. We would put it on our tail if we could. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at me. I'm a Christian. Look at me. I put it on the bumper of our cars, and now we got creative. We got big fish, little fish, baby fish. We got the fish eating Darwin. I thought that was a Christian nice thing to do. Eat the sucker. You know, I just sometimes we have to sit back and say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
When we do to people that can't pay us back, that's living the Christian life. Mm-hmm. We need to be more doers than we are. I've got a story in here about the butterball turkey that you might enjoy. At Thanksgiving time, the Butterball turkey people put up an 800 number. And I love this story because a lady called in and said, I got a Butterball turkey. It's been frozen for 9 years. Is it safe to eat? Well, the lady on the other end said, well, I'll have to check with the supervisor on that one. And she came back and she said, well, I've checked. If you're sure it's been frozen for all those years, it's safe to eat. But just between you and me, if it was me, I wouldn't take a chance. Now, this is what the woman said to the Butterball hotline person. Well, maybe I'll just donate it to the church then.
Oh, boy.
So is Almighty God deserving of our scraps?
Wow.
No. When he changed the water into wine, did the guy say, oh, man, this is like Strawberry Hill or Ripple or whatever you used to buy down at 7-Eleven? No. He said it was top shelf stuff. So Jesus always did things right. When he healed the blind man, Perry, the blind man didn't say, well, I can see the big E on the chart vaguely. Yeah. That's not what he said. He said, I could see. I was blind, but now I see. So who's kidding who? He's either God or he's not. And for my call, he's God. He's always been. He's created us, and it is a matter of the heart.
The book is called The Way of the Wise. It's put out by Revell. Make sure that you get a copy of it. Check it out at Evangel or online at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. How many grandkids you have now?
Still just 2. They're 9 and 7, but I'm speaking at Grandparents' Day at their school, and they're all excited about that. So life's good, and you give Peggy a hug for us, and I'd love to get up there sometime this spring if we can make it happen.
All right, we'll see what we can do. Thank you, buddy. God bless, okay?
Bye-bye, Perry.
Bye. Hi, Dr. Kevin Leman and The Way of the Wise. Get that book. I think it'll help you start the new year. All right, coming up next, well, our good buddy Dennis Richardson's in the house, and he is running for governor of the state of Oregon. So join us coming up next.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Okay, welcome back, and delighted to have in the studio with us today Dennis Richardson, and he is a candidate for governor, currently also Representative Dennis Richardson. You've been in the State House how many years?
10 years.
10? Why did I say 14?
It just seems like that.
Okay. All right. 10 years you've been there, and you've decided to run for governor. You've announced you've been out driving around in your motorhome. Putting a lot of miles on that. Oregon's a big state, isn't it?
It is. It's amazing.
And the 2nd congressional district's even bigger.
It's bigger than many states.
Yeah, it's huge out there. How's the campaign going?
Campaign's been going very well. You know, I prepared for this by being in the legislature.
Right.
My 2nd term, I was elected unanimously by the Republicans and the Democrats as Speaker Pro Tem. And then in 2011, when we had a 30-30 split in the House, I was named by my caucus as co-chair of Ways and Means.
Right.
And that's when we had such a great budget experience, because we balanced a tough budget without raising taxes, without substantially raising fees, without additional debt. I mean, we really were able to rein things in and have an ending balance that really has helped the current biennium.
And from that, you've kind of given the title as kind of the budget hawk. I mean, if there's anybody that understands the budget, you do.
Well, it's something I've spent countless hours on.
Yeah.
And what's important from the experience I had in the legislature is that it's prepared me to run the state. I mean, the governor is the CEO of the state. He's the head of the executive branch. And in the legislative branch, you debate. Well, the executive branch is supposed to execute.
Right.
But it's time for us no longer to have a governor who is a manager of a bureaucracy, and have one who can have vision for where we want the state to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Right.
I mean, what's the legacy? I mean, currently it's about dependency,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Are you eligible for this program? Can you qualify for more food stamps?
Yeah, right, right.
There's 100,000 more Oregonians receiving food stamps now than there were 3 years ago.
Wow.
And we're going to sign another 250,000 Oregonians onto Medicaid in the next 2 years, plus this fiasco for Cover Oregon. I mean, they were planning on signing up between 100 and 200,000 Oregonians at just in months after the opening, the launch of Cover Oregon, and now they still haven't got a single one that they've been able to sign up online, and they're just rapidly collecting applications and trying to get paperwork through.
It's a colossal failure.
Oh, yeah.
Cover Oregon, Obamacare, a colossal failure. We're watching this thing unwind, and all the predictions say that it just gets worse.
Yeah.
The taxing, the losing of your doctor, the health plans, and all this, it just continues to get worse. In today's paper, it said that the Cover Oregon spent $8 million on that stupid television ad. They finally decided it wasn't working. They pulled it. And how much money do we get from the feds on that?
Well, the whole federal contribution is like $240 million, which is, I mean, this is half of what the federal government spent on the national one, and this is just our state. Yeah. They spent over $20 million on advertising. I mean, that's why you see these billboards that say, you know, Oregons live longer. I mean, what is that about?
Yeah.
They were just throwing money out the door instead of focusing on the technical work to make sure that when the launch date came that they could deliver.
All right. Governor John Kitzhaber, pretty much his baby, it was the Oregon Health Plan. Obamacare is the president's big legislative victory. And now the Oregon Health Plan has become Cover Oregon, and he decides to run for an unprecedented 4th term. He's got to be vulnerable.
No, absolutely. Polling indicates that there's 19% of Oregonians that say he really should win the next, a 4th term, and 24% say absolutely not. He should not have a 4th term. And then there's over 50% that say, let's see who's going to run against him. We have excellent facts. I have 30% name recognition. Before I even announced, I had 29%.
Well, that's because you got negative press.
Well, no, it's because of the newsletter.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And
yeah,
if your viewers and listeners do not already subscribe, if they go to DennisRichardson.com and just click on news,
yeah. By the way, that is an excellent resource for you.
It's an opportunity for us really to have government of the people and by the people. I mean, in the legislature, when I've had an issue coming up that I really didn't know which way to go on because the arguments are good on both sides, I would do a newsletter explaining the pros and cons and have a survey, and I would get hundreds, sometimes thousands of responses. Our team would go through them, and I would gain from the people understanding about issues that I just wouldn't have had otherwise, and it's helped me to represent the people all over the state, even while I was in the legislature.
A couple quick things before we run out of time. Jobs, obviously a big thing, and what would you do as governor to help bring some jobs back to the state?
Well, the first thing we need to do is realize the government doesn't create jobs. It drains money from the economy. The government needs to first define what is the purpose of state government, and then we need to ask ourselves, what, as we look at each of the programs and each of the agencies that we have, is it leading us toward accomplishing our top priorities? We need to ask the question, if this program did not exist today, would we create it? If the answer is no, then we shouldn't be funding it. We should take the money that would be on something that's outlived its usefulness and focus it on education, on attracting innovators and inventors and entrepreneurs to Oregon, because they're the ones that make the difference. I mean, Perry, 170 years ago, the pioneers came here. I mean, they were 1,000 miles away. They put everything they had into a wagon and they wrote on the side, Oregon or bust. And they started walking west. And they did it because they wanted to give their family a legacy of freedom and opportunity and personal responsibility. And that's what made Oregon a great state. But for the last 20 years, it's been, are you eligible for programs? And isn't it horrible? And what we really need is to get back to this concept, this legacy, and leave it for our kids, that Oregon is a place, a land of the free, where you can prosper based on an environment of growth and still with respect for our quality of life and the environment.
All right, a little bit of campaign strategy. You're heading down, the primary looks fairly I say simple, nothing's simple, but for the most part, you should get through the primary just fine and into the general. But that doesn't mean that you don't need to raise money now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to need over $7.5 million. I mean, the last gubernatorial race, we had Chris Dudley, who lost by 22,000 votes, and he spent over $10 million on this. I mean, to buy the media in the Portland market is hugely expensive. So what I'm doing now is I've gone all over the state, and we've had about 350 people that have contributed to the campaign, from $10 to $25,000. Mm-hmm. And I've just put in $10,000 from savings. And my wife and I have committed 9.5 years to this, a year and a half to get elected and 8 years in office. I mean, we are all in, and what we need to save our state, to restore our state, is for people, our citizens all over the state, to say, you know what, I'm not going to sit this one out. I'm going to be in as well. I'll go to DennisRichardson.com and click on the donate and give a contribution. A man in Doofer said, I want to help you. I've got your newsletter. I think you'd make a great governor. And so how can I help? And we wrote back and said, how can you help? And he said, well, I'm giving you $10,000 today. And he went onto the website and used a credit card. And he gave us $10,000. And he said, and this is just the beginning, because I love Oregon. I want to save Oregon. I do not want to have to move away because of your tax policy, the shutdown of growth, regulations. What I want is to help save our state, and you can be the person to help make that happen. And so I'm asking Oregonians all over the state, get involved, contribute now, help us to organize this campaign and to expand it and to make it a movement. It's not about a Republican versus Democrat. It's about someone who understands business and economy and the importance of family wage-paying jobs, who understands liberty and freedom and the Constitution, versus failed policies of dependency on federal money. What is the choice?
All right, so the website is?
It's DennisRichardson.com.
DennisRichardson.com. All right, well, it's early, I realize that. We'll see you many times between now and throughout the campaign. One thing you want to leave about what you want to do as governor?
Yes. As governor, we will restore our state to the principles that made it great. We will restore liberty and freedom and opportunity. There are people now that are young and innovative. I mean, Phil Knight would have a hard time starting Nike if he was in college today. And we need to change that. We need this atmosphere to be one where we welcome entrepreneurs and innovators, because they create the jobs. We should stop exporting our kids to other states because they can get a job. We need to be exporting more of our products and services to other states and other countries, expanding our gross domestic product with an understanding of the quality of life that we want to retain. These things are possible. They are vital, and we can do this.
Are they ever? All right, DennisRichardson.com, and Dennis, we'll see him, like I said, many more times, but let me encourage you, go to the website, check it out, and sign up for his newsletter if you haven't already done that, and look for the motorhome painted with green stuff all over it. You got Dennis Richardson for governor and trees on it.
We went over 3,000 miles all over the state, and we're well received. People feel disenfranchised, and I'm giving them hope that we can have a governor who will represent the entire state and not just the I-5 corridor from Eugene north.
Well, there you go. Yeah, okay, good. Thank you, friend. Best to you. All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and I just wanted to take a few minutes as we wrap up really this Christmas week and almost the end of the year, or almost to the end of 2013. Give you a little bit of an update on where we are here at the Dove and some of the things that are going on, and kind of ask for your peripheral consideration. You know, we have announced about 2 or 3 months ago now, I guess, that finally after 30 years of renting, various facilities, the Dove is finally getting its own permanent home. And I can't tell you how excited we are, and a miracle that this really is. The way this came about, and I won't bore you with all the details, but through the years that I have been looking at buildings throughout the area, something that could meet our needs and something that we could afford. And I think my file had over 60 some odd buildings that I had looked into over a course of about 4.5, 5 years. The facility that we're in, we were supposed to be here for about a year at the most, and then move on from there. We ended up being here a little over 10 years. We've certainly have outgrown it. I've often told people that we're a size 12 in an 8 shoe, and that's the best way we can describe it. But from this facility, we've launched 3 other radio stations, about 5 other translators, and we've now launched the Dove TV. And the future of all of this continues to be quite demanding, as we want to not only continue on producing what we do, but start making more Christian content for radio and television that can be used literally all over the world. And then the other part of it is that I'm really a firm believer of a student internship program. We've done it here at the Dove, and it's been very successful. And our dream is to, alongside of what we do every day, at the same time be training students so they can learn it as well, and maybe go into their church and be media people in their church, or get into this field of service, whether it's in the Christian broadcasting or secular broadcasting. They go into it from a Christian perspective. And this facility is just a tool for us to do that. It's a tool for us to increase the programming production capability. It'll help us certainly increase and get more involved with the student internship program. And we are absolutely thrilled beyond measure. We don't take possession of the building until a little after the first of the year, and then starts a very big project, and that is to turn this 8,000 square foot building into a broadcast facility. And it's no easy task, but the upfront cost on some of these things, and these are just estimates, they aren't hard. You know, I'm being totally transparent here, but we've looked into this now for several months, and we have to raise fees to cover some architectural work, some what they call structural engineering, and even some of the permit fees just to get the ball rolling to do the entire build out. And so we're asking you to prayerfully consider a year-end gift to the Dove, but only do what the Lord's telling you to do. And that's always been our motto, and that you pray about it, and it's a joy for you to do it. And if you don't feel led to do it, don't worry about it. And I don't want you, and I say this with all my heart, I don't want you taken from your church, and I don't want you taken from any other ministry that the Lord has you involved in. You may be involved in other parachurch ministries that are doing great work all over the valley and all throughout Southern Oregon and Northern California. If you're involved in those ministries, you support them and you help them, because they too have their needs. I'm just asking you to prayerfully consider what the Lord may lead you to do to help us. We had a total of about $75,000 that we needed to raise between now and the end of the year to meet the beginning costs just to start the project. And I think we have about 35 or 40,000 more to go between now and the end of the year, which is only about 5 days away now. Let's see, today's Friday, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 days away until Tuesday. So pray about it, and if the Lord's leading you to help us, then give us a call at 541-776-5368. You can certainly go online, and if you go online at thedove.us, right at the top of our website, you'll see a big red button that says Help Build the Dove's New Home. Those watching on the Dove TV, you're seeing a little bit of a 3D drawing of what we plan to do with this building. And so we're pretty excited to get in there. The sooner the better, obviously, because we just are so strapped in where we are. And this is the first opportunity we've had in the 30 years to really do it right, to build it out, to make it customized for the work that the Lord has got us involved in producing radio programs and television programs and content for the internet and for the apps and things like that. So it is an incredible gift and opportunity. I tell you, it's just been mind-boggling to see all this come together. And it's a huge project. Somebody asked me the other day, is that what we thought that the build-out was going to be. And this is just a rough estimate. It's just an estimate. It's not a hardcore bid either. We're probably somewhere between $350,000 and $400,000 to renovate this building to meet our purposes. And we're trusting the Lord for that as well. And but we have to do it. I mean, this is just an incredible opportunity to go on and do what we do here at the Dove. And so pray about it. If the Lord is leading you to help us in any way, shape, or form, you can give us a call. You can come on by, or you can go online at theDove.us. But folks, this is an incredible thing. I was the other day sitting down looking at two things. I was looking at our stack of letters that we received from viewers and listeners this year and how the Dove has ministered to them. And I do that quite often because it's a reminder to me that what we do here, because so often you get tied up in the everyday minutia of running the place and being involved in its operation. If you're not careful, you can lose focus of what it's all about. And it's about helping people. It's about ministering to people. It's about encouraging them. It's about getting them in instructions. It's about connecting them with other ministries that can help them. And our heart is to help every ministry we can. That's why we have them in. We want other ministries to use the platform of the Dove to get their message out and what they do to help people. And so I read these letters as a reminder that the Dove is impacting lives. And I'm telling you, it's just remarkable, some of the letters that we get. Do you know, last month in November, we had 42,000 people go to the Dove YouTube viewings that we had, and what they call a YouTube view, and look at some of the programming that we've done throughout the Dove. And that's because the Dove is on Roku, which broadcasts television throughout the United States. It's on radio on 4 FM stations, 6 translators. And the future of the Dove radio and television is unbelievable. We have more licenses that are coming available to us, and increase in signal patterns and things like that. Those are all part of the plan so we can reach more people. But it's about ministering. It's about getting the gospel out there, and that's our heart. And then the other thing I was going through was the list of buildings that we've looked at over these last 4 years or so, almost 5. And I started looking through each one, and some of the deals fell apart, some of the deals didn't work, some of the buildings didn't work. And I realized that even through all of those frustrations, God was carefully leading and guiding us to this moment and this time. And after 30 years of renting and moving this facility 7 times, we're finally getting our own permanent facility. So we're pretty excited, to say the least. And again, those watching on the Dove TV see somewhat of a 3D view of what we plan to do with this building. So we do need your help. And if the Lord is leading you between now and the end of the year to help us with some of these upfront fees, pray about it. And I mean that sincerely. Don't do anything unless God leads you to do it. And I only ask 2 things. That first of all, that the Lord is leading you to do it, and 2, it's a joy for you to do it. And if those 2 things line up, then only do what the Lord. The amount, that's between you and God. And you can call us at 776-5368, or you can go online at theDove.us and look right at the top of our webpage, and you'll see a big red button that says Help Build the Dove New Home, and you can click on there, or you can come on by. We're here during a normal business hours, and we'd love to see you and meet you. But again, don't take from your church or any other ministry that the Lord has you involved in. And there are some ministries out there that are certainly worthy of your support. So if you feel led to get involved in this, fine. If you don't, fine. But just go where the Lord's leading you to do. And pray for us. This is a big job. This is, of all the things we've done, from building a TV station from scratch, adding some other FM stations, doing translators here and there. These have all been very difficult challenges, but God has seen us through them all. And now we face the biggest one we've ever faced, and that is taking on this facility and getting it renovated for our purposes. We can't do it without your help. We couldn't do all those other things without your help. We can't do this without your help. But again, only do what the Lord's leading you to do. So thanks. Thanks for praying for us. Thanks for believing in what we do. And thanks for supporting us. Feel free to call us at 776-5368, or feel free to go to the Dove website at theDove.us and look for the big red button at the top of the page. Thanks. God bless.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at the Dove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, theDove.us.